Thank you for having me here, and thank you for being here. Before I start sharing my thoughts, I'd like to invite everyone to just listen to the bell and invite our mind back to this moment, to be with, the spiritual ones, God, Buddha, angels. Sometimes our bodies are here, but maybe our minds are not here. We may think about projects, dinner, and all kinds of stuff. So I'd like to ring the bell and invite everyone to take a few mindful breathing, to just be, because we are human being, we're not human going, right? So just be with the bell, the sound of the bell, and your spiritual teachers, right? So let's just listen to the sound. I will ring 3 bells, and we'll take a few breaths, and then I'll ring 1 bell to end. Allow your mind to be here with your body, to be here with God, be here with spiritual ones. Invite your mind to be with your breathing. Breathing in, I'm aware of my in-breath. Breathing out, I'm aware of my out-breath. Listen to this wonderful sound that brings me back to my true home. Thank you for your practice. All right, now we can go to the easy question: how to make decision regarding our own faith and belief. When facing a difficult decision regarding making a decision for ourselves or for our loved one, it can be challenging. Our mind kind of tells us one thing, but our heart is telling us another thing, right? So we have to wrestle with that. Fortunately, we have our faith, our spiritual practice that can help guide us through these difficult moments. So today, I'd like to share something about how a Buddhist make decision regarding their medical treatment, regarding their faith, their tradition. The Buddha once declared that he was here to point out suffering and the ways to end suffering. So only 2 things: suffering and the way to end suffering. Very easy, right? To him, suffering is just a fact, and we human all experience some kinds of suffering in our life. And sickness and death are two major suffering that we have to face during our lifetime here on earth. So Buddhist decision making depends on various elements, such as the way that a person understands and interprets Buddhism. It also depends on cultural context of that person. So my presentation today is a general understanding of Buddhism regarding making decision for medical treatment. It doesn't have to be a universal model for every Buddhist, because again, each Buddhist practices and understands Buddhism differently. So first of all, very important factor that we have to put into consideration is loving kindness and compassion for the patient and also for the family. For some people, love may manifest differently. Maybe the way you think about loving kindness and compassion for your loved one who is sick is different from how he or she understands love and compassion. So we have to really consider how that person understands love and compassion in their own terms. A decision could be made out of, caretakers' thoughts regarding love, but then when it is in practice, when it is put into practice, when the treatment is made and is carried out, it may not reflect how the patients want. But we say it is our love, we want to do whatever best for you, but then it doesn't reflect how they think about love and compassion. So how do we know? Based on the principle of loving kindness and compassion, we prioritize alleviating suffering and promoting happiness. If that practice have reduced suffering of the person and promote their well-being, then that practice is considered compassion and loving kindness. Second thing is respecting for life. So one of the precepts in Buddhism is non-harming. The very first one. In order to be a Buddhist, one has to take 5 precepts, and the very first one is not harming, not killing, right? So if a treatment or a decision that causes harm to the patient, it shouldn't be carried out. For example, the patient is in pain with his or her, terminal illness, right? So he wants to end his life with medical assistance, right? And how do we wrestle with that? Do we allow him to end life regarding to this first precept, non-harming? Or we let him just, experience the pain, the suffering? So how do we wrestle with that? It is a difficult question. So we return to the first one I shared, which is loving kindness and compassion. So some may say, okay, we respect their desire to just, let him live peacefully, right? But then does it contradict to the non-harming principle? It could. So that is how I say it depends on social context of that person. If that person is in my country, in Vietnam, that ending life is non-negotiable. But in here, it could be discussed. So it depends on that cultural and social context of the Buddhist patient. Third is to be mindful at the moment of death. Before that, what you say, before the soul leaves the body, one has to be really mindful of that. It is very important for Buddhist practitioners because it can determine his or her next birth. Because we Buddhists believe in rebirth, so it's very important. First of all, it's important for the patient to be mindful, and also for the family to be mindful, because at that time I know many people will panic and cry and grieve, all sort of things. To be mindful is to be really there for the patient. You don't want to cause any chaotic scenes during that delicate moment, because it may harm the patient's mind. So you want to remain calm and mindful to support the patient's mind at that time as well. Because when we are in pain, it is really hard to be calm, right? We just want to yell, we just want to do something. Remaining calm is extremely important. Some Buddhist practitioners who believe in Pure Land Buddhism. So there are different Buddhist traditions, Buddhist schools. Pure Land is one of the major Buddhist school in China, in Japan, in Vietnam, right? These people who believe that at the moment before your consciousness transition to another birth, you need supporting from a community. That community, first of all, has to be well practiced, to be really mindful, and has to say words that is like guiding for the patient next step, next journey, so that he or she can be reborn in the Pure Land with the Amitabha Buddha. So it is very important to be extremely mindful at that moment. And if they don't have a consistent daily practice, it is very hard to be calm and to be mindful during that difficult moment. And fourth is kind of touching to the nature of impermanence of life. Impermanence means that everything changes, right? We were born, we grow, we get sick, we get old, and we go, we die. And it happens to all of us. So at that moment, if you know that patient is a good practitioner, you can remind him or her about the nature of impermanence. Because at that moment, we want to hold on to things, to our family, to our house, to our, many things. But we cannot hold on to anything when we go, right? So we have to remind the patient to let go. Everything changed. You are changing. You are going to another journey. So don't hold on to anything, because if you hold on to anything, you will be reborn in some form that attach to that things. So there's a story during the Buddha's time that a very wealthy man, and he was very greedy. He had a lot of money, but he didn't want to spend any of his money, and he held on dearly to his wealth, right? When he died, he was reborn as a dog guarding his money. So it's very, very important to let go, to understand the nature of impermanence and letting go. And lastly, the presence of a well-trained spiritual teacher is very, very important. Because for many Buddhists, especially Asian Buddhists, a monk or a nun is an authority figure that can have the authority to guide them through their next birth, because we kind of understand that family will panic, will be shocked, will grieve, and do all sort of things that may cause bad karma to the patient. So we want a well-trained, well-practiced, well-established teacher who can guide and can help, can support the patient in their, final journey on this earth to transform into another birth. So, to me, as an immigrant spiritual teacher in this country, I have met many patients, and even many of them are Vietnamese Americans, but the way that they understand Buddhism is quite different from my understanding of Buddhism, right? So when I give them advice, give them counseling, I have to put everything into consideration to help them for, not only helping them to remain calm and mindful at that moment, but also to help family reconcile with whatever is going on. Some family are, traditional Buddhists, not practicing at all. Some are a combination of different religious faith in the family. So it is very complex and intricate situation that a spiritual teacher should understand. And I'm really fortunate to have received training from school and also from hospital. I took CPE and and chaplain training, so that helps a lot in terms of providing spiritual care for Buddhist patients. So lastly, it's important to remember that these perspectives are just general, and it shouldn't be applied to every Buddhist, because Buddhists are coming from different size and shape. So this is just an understanding. If any of you may encounter a Buddhist patient, you can think about these factors, so that maybe you can help them, and also do something that is generating good karma for yourself. Right? Thank you for listening.